Welcome to this deep dive, into the life of Bill Clinton as chronicled in his autobiography, My Life. We'll be tracing his journey from his boyhood in Hope, Arkansas, all the way to his years as the 42nd president. And along the way, we'll uncover some really insightful anecdotes, get into some of the political battles he faced, personal hurdles, and really just try to understand the fabric of this man who left such an undeniable mark on history. So we'll start right at the beginning in Hope, Arkansas. And it's such a central part of his story that Hope almost becomes a character itself. He was born on his grandfather's birthday, and his early life was so steeped in that kind of rural, the smells, the sounds, the rhythms of rural living. And his birthplace is now preserved as the Clinton birthplace, which is pretty cool because it offers this tangible link back to these formative years. You can almost hear the echoes of family and community that shaped his worldview. Family dynamics are really key to understanding Clinton's story. His mother Virginia was drawn to Roger Clinton, a man whose affable nature really appealed to both her and Clinton's grandfather. So it creates this kind of web of complex familial relationships. We also get these glimpses into his childhood through his fondness for his stepfather's cafe. You can almost imagine the atmosphere, with those home-style meals, the energy during carnival season. And Clinton actually recounts going to the carnival with his stepbrother David, and riding the rides, which is always fun to kind of get that relatable glimpse into his early years. Growing up in Hot Springs exposed Clinton to such diverse tapestry of people and personalities, and that melting pot undoubtedly played a role in shaping his perspective, and I think contributed to his later political ideals. There's one anecdote in particular involving his childhood friend Tavia Perry and a BB gun, and it really illustrates this kind of youthful lesson about challenging bluffs, and I think even hints at Clinton's early understanding of negotiation and power dynamics. Another really poignant memory is tied to the Perry Plaza Motel. There was a resident there who was later apprehended by authorities, and it turned out that he was performing abortions. And this was Clinton's first real encounter with the multifaceted issue of abortion that would really kind of weave its way through his political journey for years to come. Clinton's grandfather, Eldridge, instilled in him a real appreciation for the simple joys of life and a deep sense of empathy for others. And, what's striking is Eldridge's ability to find happiness even in the face of adversity, and that really left a mark on young Clinton. And Clinton really admired his mother, Virginia. She was this, dedicated nurse with a passion for the racetrack, and she really exemplified resilience and compassion. She would often treat patients who couldn't afford to pay. And he even tells this great story about how one fruit picker settled his account with peaches, which really underscores Virginia's dedication to caring for everyone, regardless of circumstance. But this idyllic image of childhood wasn't without its shadows. When Clinton was 15, his stepfather's volatile behavior resurfaced, and this forced his mother to relocate them to a new home on Suckley Street. And this move really, signaled a significant shift in their family dynamic and deeply impacted Bill. From this nurturing environment of his youth, Clinton transitioned to the very structured world of Georgetown University's Foreign Service School. And the atmosphere at Georgetown was notably conservative. They had this very rigid Jesuit curriculum, a formal dress code, strict dorm rolls. And it's really interesting to contrast that with Clinton's later visit to Stanford with his daughter Chelsea, where co-ed dorms were just the norm. And it really kind of shows you how the social landscape of college campuses has evolved over time. At Georgetown, Clinton encountered a lot of people with strong and often very divisive opinions. And one figure that stands out is Jim Johnson, who really espoused this kind of us versus them mentality. And I think it was an early exposure for Clinton to the very kind of polarizing nature of political discourse that would really become so prevalent in American society. Maybe the most pivotal experience during Clinton's time at Georgetown, though, was working for Senator J. William Fulbright. And Fulbright was a staunch critic of the Vietnam War. And this exposure really ignited Clinton's political awakening. He got to see firsthand these contrasting viewpoints on the war. You had the Johnson administration pushing the domino theory, fearing the spread of communism throughout Southeast Asia. And then you had Fulbright, who really believed that Ho Chi Minh's primary desire was just an independent Vietnam. So, this experience solidified Clinton's opposition to the war and really deepened his understanding of the kind of nuances of foreign policy. In the midst of all of these, weighty political matters, Clinton's autobiography also gives us these little glimpses into the shifting social mores of the time. And he tells this kind of funny anecdote about Donkey Bishop, who was known for his numerous marriages. And Donkey would joke about how, attitudes towards love and marriage had changed so much. It's just a lighthearted reflection on that evolving societal landscape. As Clinton was preparing to go to Oxford on his Rhodes Scholarship, the world around him was kind of in turmoil. The 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago was marred by those violent clashes between protesters and police. And Clinton, watching all of this from afar, grappled with conflicting emotions. He felt this growing conviction against the Vietnam War, but also a sense of detachment from the chaotic events that were unfolding. A conversation with Warren Miles, who was a Rhodes Scholar and Vietnam veteran, really kind of fueled this internal struggle. Miles urged Clinton to actually join the Marines and experience the war firsthand. And I think this really challenged Clinton's convictions and forced him to confront, his own motivations and beliefs. Clinton's trip to Moscow during this really turbulent period provided a rare glimpse behind the Iron Curtain, and he actually had this really candid conversation with Oleg Verkito, who was a government employee tasked with keeping an eye on him. And they were on a late-night bus ride, and they talked about everything from Time magazine to, British pop star Tom Jones. And it really revealed this kind of shared human curiosity that transcended political divides. I think it was a pertinent reminder that even in a society as closed off as the Soviet Union, there was still this yearning for information and connection. So now we're going to shift gears a little bit and focus on Clinton's early political endeavors, starting with his work for Joe Duffy in Connecticut and culminating in his own congressional bid in Arkansas. So buckle up as we enter the unpredictable world of campaigns and elections. Clinton's entry into politics really began with a campaign for Joe Duffy, who was a progressive Senate candidate in Connecticut. And this was like a crash course in understanding, voter concerns political strategy. One of the challenges they faced was this perception among white ethnic Democrats that Duffy was too radical. And it really highlights the challenge of appealing to a diverse electorate with all these, varying viewpoints. Clinton's own congressional campaign in Arkansas in 1974 really unveiled the unique dynamics of his home state. And, despite facing a really tough battle against the incumbent John Paul Hammerschmidt, Clinton really threw himself into the campaign and connected with voters across the state. There's this particularly amusing anecdote involving the Searcy County operative Will Murphy, who allegedly ensured Clinton's runoff victory by, let's just say, adjusting the vote count. And while ethically questionable, is a pretty funny story, and it reveals the length that some people were willing to go to support Clinton's aspirations. So even though Clinton lost that election, he gained this invaluable experience in Arkansas politics. And, he emerged with this even stronger resolve to serve the people. His return to teaching at the University of Arkansas Law School gave him a new platform to engage with complex issues. And he actually developed a seminar on the Roe v. Wade decision, which really sparked debate and, encouraged his students to grapple with the very multifaceted implications of this landmark ruling. Clinton was also really committed to bridging the gap between academia and the real world. And he taught law enforcement officers in Little Rock. And, these teaching experiences really honed his ability to articulate these complex subjects in a very accessible way, a skill that would obviously prove invaluable throughout his political career. A trip to Haiti with Hillary and their friend David Edwards provided a stark contrast to the academic world. They met Max Beauvoir, who was a chemical engineer turned voodoo priest. And it was just this really, fascinating glimpse into the rich tapestry of Haitian culture. And it exposed Clinton to the challenges facing developing nations and broadened his understanding of global issues. Back in the States, Clinton tells this heartwarming story about attending an Easter Messiah service in Alexandria, Louisiana. And he was really struck by the power of the music and the diversity of the congregation. And during the service, there was a blackout, and this woman with the most incredible voice just started singing a hymn. When the lights came back on, it turned out that the woman was a white librarian. And someone near Clinton said, my God, it's a white librarian. It's just a funny anecdote that kind of underscores the fallibility of assumptions and the power of these shared experiences to transcend expectations. So in the next part of this deep dive, we're going to delve into Clinton's return to Arkansas, his marriage to Hillary, and his journey to the governor's mansion. So get ready to really dive into this next chapter of his remarkable life. Picking up where we left off in Bill Clinton's journey, as we kind of move into this era where he's, starting to really step onto that national political stage, having been governor and kind of, really becoming a prominent figure within the Democratic Party. But, the road to the White House is never, a simple one. It's always multifaceted. And Clinton's was no exception. There were a lot of personal challenges, strategic maneuvers, and of course, the ever-present media glare. So the 1992 presidential campaign was such a pivotal moment in American history. And for Clinton, it was really a test of, fortitude and resilience. He launched his bid with this message of revitalization, transformation, aiming to kind of breathe new life into the economy and address some of the anxieties that people were feeling. But, he couldn't completely escape the specter of the Gennifer Flowers scandal. which really threatened to derail his aspirations. And the media scrutiny intensified. They really subjected him to this barrage of allegations about his personal life. But what's really striking is that amidst all of this chaos, Clinton was able to forge these really deep connections with voters. He traveled tirelessly across the country. He participated in, countless town halls. He interacted with people on such a personal level. And, his ability to withstand that media onslaught and stay focused on these substantive issues, I think really underscored his, political dexterity and his unwavering belief in his own leadership. He really tapped into the anxieties of working class Americans who felt left behind by, some of the economic shifts of the 80s. And his message really resonated with those who were struggling financially and, yearning for a leader who understood their plight. But even with all the gravity of the campaign, there were still moments of levity. Clinton actually shares this funny exchange with Senator Alan Simpson, who was, this staunch Republican from Wyoming. When asked about Clinton's involvement in the Whitewater controversy, Simpson said, "Of course not. That's not the point. The objective is to make the public believe you erred." Mm-hmm. And then Simpson goes on to offer this kind of cynical but perceptive observation about the media. He says, Democrats like you enter government to help people. The right-wing crazies don't believe government can do much good, but they love power, as does the press. And since you've got the presidency, they both get power the same way, by hurting you. And, that exchange really kind of lays bare the reality of Washington politics and the just constant pressure that comes with, being the leader of the free world. But despite all the hurdles, Clinton ultimately emerged victorious, defeating President George H.W. Bush and ushering in this, new era of Democratic leadership. And his inauguration was both a moment of celebration and achievement, but also, I think, a sobering reminder of the immense responsibilities that he now carried.
As he stepped into the Oval Office, Clinton faced a whole host of challenges. A sluggish economy, a healthcare system in shambles, and a global order that was still kind of reeling from the end of the Cold War.
And I think his presidency was marked by this, combination of really bold initiatives and, pragmatic concessions. He put together this, really skilled team of advisors, including, of course, his wife Hillary, who played a really central role in shaping domestic policy. One of the first legislative battles he faced was over NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And he really championed NAFTA despite facing resistance from labor unions and even, factions within his own party. Clinton argued that it would create jobs, boost the economy, and he eventually secured its passage, which, demonstrates his ability to build consensus and navigate those very complex, corridors of congressional politics. On the domestic front, Clinton focused a lot of his energy on revitalizing the economy and tackling the growing issue of income inequality. He implemented a number of economic policies aimed at reducing the deficit, promoting job growth, and expanding access to education and healthcare. His healthcare reform efforts, which were spearheaded by Hillary, faced, fierce opposition from Republicans in the insurance industry. And despite, their best efforts, Clinton's healthcare plan ultimately failed to gain congressional approval, and really underscores the enduring power of special interests and how difficult it is to implement, these sweeping reforms in such a polarized political climate. But even with those setbacks, Clinton never wavered in his commitment to, creating a more just and equitable society. He signed the Family and Medical Leave Act, which granted workers unpaid leave for family and medical reasons. And he expanded the earned income tax credit, which was designed to, help low-income families. On the global stage, Clinton worked to promote peace and stability while safeguarding American interests. He played a key role in the Oslo Accords, which, brought together Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat in an attempt to, forge a lasting peace in the Middle East. And he also authorized military intervention in Bosnia and Herzegovina to stop the ethnic cleansing that was ravaging the region. And I think, those foreign policy actions really demonstrated Clinton's capacity for decisive action, but also his commitment to, pursuing diplomatic solutions whenever possible. Clinton's second term was, of course, overshadowed by the Monica Lewinsky scandal, which ultimately led to his impeachment by the House of Representatives. And even though he was acquitted by the Senate, the scandal, undoubtedly tarnished his legacy and cast a shadow over all of his accomplishments. And, I think the scandal and the impeachment trial really exposed those deep partisan divisions in American society and the willingness of political opponents to, kind of weaponize personal failings for their own gain. And it also highlighted, the double standards that are often applied to public figures, especially those in positions of power. But despite the turbulence of that second term, Clinton left office with relatively high approval ratings and a record of, substantial achievements. He presided over a period of sustained economic growth. He reduced the deficit, he expanded access to health care for millions of Americans, and he played this really important role in advancing global peace and stability. Welcome back to, our final segment in this deep dive into Bill Clinton's My Life. It's amazing how time flies when you're immersed in such a complex and, multifaceted narrative. We've traveled with Clinton from those, humble beginnings, and Hope, Arkansas witnessed his political evolution, followed his, ascent to the White House, and through a presidency marked by both, great triumphs and some pretty significant adversity. But as we all know, life doesn't end at the steps of the Oval Office, right? It often unfolds in new and unexpected ways. So as Clinton embarked on this, post-presidential chapter, he faced that question that a lot of former presidents do. What comes next? For some, it's a period of quiet reflection. For others, it's a chance to continue, shaping the world in different ways. And for Clinton, I think it was a little bit of both. He remained very much engaged in public life, using his experience and his influence to champion causes that he really cared about. He founded the Clinton Foundation, which is this nonprofit organization that focuses on addressing global challenges, things like climate change, poverty, HIV/AIDS. And, this really showcased his commitment to making a difference on a global scale. He used his platform to shine a light on these pressing issues and mobilize resources to try to find solutions. Clinton was also, still very much in demand as a speaker, sharing his insights on politics, policy leadership with audiences all over the world. And these speaking engagements allowed him to connect with people from, all walks of life and really foster, dialogue and understanding across cultures and continents. But amidst, this dedication to public service, Clinton also made time for personal pursuits. He reconnected with old friends. He indulged his passion for music, even jamming with saxophone legend Clarence Clemons. And he really cherished time with his family, especially his daughter, Chelsea. And there's this really heartwarming anecdote that reveals, how much he wanted to create a supportive environment for his family, even amidst the demands of, public life. During a house hunt in Chappaqua, New York, Clinton was immediately drawn to this, master bedroom that was just bathed in natural light. And he insisted that they buy the house. And he explained to Hillary, he said, "You're about to go through a tough campaign, and there are going to be some setbacks along the way. This beautiful room filled with sunlight will make sure that you wake up every morning feeling good." And it's, a small gesture, but I think it speaks volumes about his love and support for Hillary as she embarked on her own, political journey. Clinton's post-presidency was also marked by a renewed focus on his own, health and well-being. After undergoing heart surgery, he actually adopted a vegan diet, which showed his willingness to change and embrace these healthier lifestyle choices. And I think, this personal transformation reflected a broader recognition of the importance of taking care of yourself. And he kind of set an example for others who were, looking to improve their own well-being. Throughout his post-presidential years, Clinton continued to navigate those, complex waters of public life. And he faced scrutiny, criticism, praise, with a mix of grace, wit, and determination. He remained a vocal advocate for the things that he believed in, using his platform to speak out against injustice and inequality. And his continued presence, on the world stage really testifies to his resilience, his intellectual curiosity, and his passion for making a real difference. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Bill Clinton's My Life, let's take a moment to reflect on some of the key takeaways from his, extraordinary journey. First, I think Clinton's life really highlights the power of place. From those humble beginnings in Hope, Arkansas, to his formative years in Washington, D.C., the environments that he inhabited really shaped his worldview and influenced the path that he took. Second, his story really underscores the importance of relationships, whether it was the unwavering love and support of his family, the guidance of his mentors, the camaraderie of his political allies. Clinton's life was deeply enriched by those connections with other people. Third, his journey really illuminates, I think, the persistent nature of political ambition, from his early campaigns in Arkansas to his pursuit of the presidency. Clinton's drive to serve the public was a constant force in his life. Fourth, I think his presidency offers a really fascinating look at the complexities of leadership, that balance between idealism and pragmatism, and the challenges of navigating a political landscape that's, increasingly divided. Fifth, the Monica Lewinsky scandal serves as a, cautionary tale about the dangers of power and the importance of personal responsibility. Sixth, Clinton's post-presidency highlights all the possibilities that exist beyond holding elected office. And it's a reminder that, growth and impact and fulfillment can continue well into those, later chapters of life. Seventh, his embrace of a vegan lifestyle, I think, emphasizes the importance of personal well-being and that, adaptability that we all need to navigate, the changes that life throws our way. Eighth, his continued presence, on the global stage really shows that former presidents can still exert influence and remain relevant long after they've left the Oval Office. Ninth, his advocacy for social justice, environmental protection, and global cooperation reminds us that we all have a role to play in creating a better future. And finally, I think Bill Clinton's My Life offers this really captivating glimpse into the mind of a man who has experienced the highs and lows of public life. It's a story that invites reflection, it sparks debate, and ultimately I think it asks us to consider what truly constitutes a meaningful and purposeful life. So I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into Bill Clinton's extraordinary story. It's a story full of unexpected turns, soaring triumphs, and moments of real tragedy. And most importantly, it's a story that continues to unfold, leaving a lasting mark on the fabric of history.